Hello and welcome to today's video, which will give an introduction to the topic of visual management. I think you'll find this video really interesting since visual management is one of those topics that is pretty widely applied, but where the difference between an average deployment and a state-of-the-art deployment can be transformative for business success. My name is Carl and I'm a business improvement greybeard. Rather than look at how to design and establish visual management boards, a topic we will cover in a separate video, this video will look more at the logic behind what visual management is intended to achieve and the kind of content it needs to include to do that. We will then explore a number of visual management best practice concepts, things that we've picked up over the years that can really make a difference to our understanding of visual management and to the effectiveness of the systems we establish.
Welcome to the Greybeard Academy, providing knowledge and advice to business leaders and business improvement specialists around the world.
Visual management and its use within local business area is something we get involved in quite regularly. This is because it genuinely is an area of business improvement that can really make a sustainable difference to company performance. Very often though, the visual management we see is not as effective as it could be. And often this is less an issue of how the content is displayed and more an issue of what content is included. Visual management is very specifically a means of providing visual intelligence to the people involved in the delivery of local process activities in order to make it easier for them to understand how things are going and to act appropriately should action be necessary. Any information in our visual management area that does not fall into that category isn't appropriate. Anything that is not feedback on the status and performance of the local people or the equipment and resources in that area is again not appropriate. And anything that they cannot directly influence themselves is also not appropriate. The scope and content of a visual management system should provide local management decision-making information for use by everybody in that local team. So, firstly, it's essential that we give appropriate thought to what the scope of information covered within the local visual management system should be. A significant area of this will be the key performance indicators we choose to include. Although those KPIs we adopt locally might be part of a wider suite of company metrics or part of a generic industry standard like the QCD system, we should only use locally those metrics that are relevant and significant to our local business activities and our local responsibilities. The core of these KPIs should be providing oversight on how effective we are being in delivering the outputs that we're responsible for providing to our customers and how efficient we are being with the resources that we're using in order to complete our processes. We should measure our effectiveness in terms of our quality and delivery performance and our resource cost efficiencies as appropriate to our use of people, material, equipment and workspace, whichever of these matter to our area and our activities. Where appropriate, we might need to include oversight of any specific outcomes our area is responsible for or that our company is relying on our area to achieve, like our element of any commercial targets or any strategic ambitions within the company, so maybe targets around safety figures or cultural values. We might also need to keep an eye on what our customers think of us or possibly other external stakeholders. Finally, there might be specific events or occurrences within the working week that can be potentially disruptive and merit being included in the visual management. For example, I was working with a client in Brazil quite recently where one of the items we included in the design for the visual management deployment was the time of and the type of the next changeover in their processing line. On the first day of the adoption of this, it had an immediate impact on performance because for the specific changeover that had been scheduled for the night shift, it was immediately obvious that there was no one going to be on that shift who was capable of completing that changeover. Production would have stopped and a full shift of labour would have been lost, and the capacity along with that. So any item that represents a threat to the continuation of work that we need to keep an eye on should be included within our visual management. Once we've determined the scope of what we should include within our visual management, we should give some thought to how we should present the information. This isn't as simple as it sounds, and it can be considered as an art in itself. We should be aiming to present information in as simple a format as possible, such that it's immediately obvious what that display is telling us. So, good performance management needs no explanation or interpretation. I have a pretty simple tip I use when designing the display for any element of content for visual management. It's not always possible to achieve it, but I do always reflect on it to see if it is possible. And this is to think of the car fuel gauge. Although we never give this any real thought, the fuel gauge represents near perfection in visual management. It gives us feedback on our current condition regarding the fuel level without us really needing to concentrate on it. We don't need to stop what we're doing to check. We don't even need to slow down or distract ourselves from the job in hand of driving the car. We generally know exactly where we stand. We certainly don't need to look anything up in the manual to see what it means. On top of that, if we then choose to ignore this intelligence that it's providing us, it often would escalate the warning signals, buzzers or warning lights, telling us exactly what we need to do. So it's genuinely beautiful in its simplicity and its effectiveness. So whenever I'm establishing a performance measure, be it for something like lead time or quality performance, I always reflect back on the fuel gauge as a comparator for how good we've done with the design of our visualization. Another choice we should consider relates to the media we use to display the visualization. And the choice here is usually between an electronic solution or a manual solution, and variations on those things. There are certainly genuine advantages and disadvantages to each. The choice, if we have one, because often the style and general design of our visual management approach can be dictated from a head office if we're in a larger company, but that choice should come down to which one best serves the ambitions of visual management, so that of allowing local ownership, use and management. So the members of the local team need to have a complete faith in and an understanding of what the figures are saying, so that they can trust in the decisions they make as a result. Electronic solutions on the one side can often be automated, and this can remove some of the burden of collecting and producing the graphs for the performance data, and they will generally be much more aesthetically attractive in their display. On the other side though, manual solutions can often better retain the faith and understanding in the validity and the construction of the measures, and gain better ownership from the team. Also, modifications are generally easier to make and can be often made by the team themselves without any need for IT support. And often the costs should be lower. But again, that depends on how far your manual solution goes. If we include things like magnetic boards and custom layout skins, these can also have a reasonably high cost in themselves. Another area of visual management capability that's often neglected is to make sure that we think of our measurement areas from a number of different potential time perspectives. What we mean by this is, for example, if you are thinking about how to manage your delivery performance, are there aspects of that performance that we can exploit in the past, present and future tenses? Most visual management deployments we see will be focused, and often exclusively, on historical performance data. And that's fine, in that it provides excellent capabilities for us to manage our process improvement activities to make things potentially better next time round. But there is so much more that can be achieved with visual management. What if we could provide feedback on the current status of work activities, such that we can influence the actions and behaviours real time before they become a historical performance concern? So what if we can, for example, see if we're ahead or behind programme? Which job is most important? Whether we have some planned maintenance or product changeovers needing to be fitted in, when breaks are coming up or shift changes. What if we can use that vision then to make decisions based on the best possible intelligence and the best possible decision every time? Similarly with long-term threats or opportunities, so things like new product launches or sales campaign, or if we've got staff that are leaving the team, or recruitment of new staff with training needs. When would be the best options to ensure the path of least resistance and the optimum performance over the coming weeks and months? We can use these other perspectives to help us make decisions now and for the future. As well as influencing real-time decisions, in order to get the best performance from the current process and its available resources, the data we collect over time should provide a rich source of objective information on how we've been performing and why we've been performing that way. The data available within our various performance metrics should serve as a source for continuous process improvement. There are things though that we can do to help this along its way. One design tip, and this is one I first started using with a client in Formula One, is to actually embed the guidance of the plan, do, check, act, the PDCA improvement cycle within our visual performance management graphs. This is relatively easy to achieve if we adopt a couple of sensible enhancements to our graphs. The first is always try to include a performance target within our graphs, even if this is relatively arbitrary to begin with. The other enhancement, and again this is one that I encourage as a matter of course, is to include comments and action fields on all of our performance graphs. And this is encouraging the team to think about what the graph is telling us and to use that to lead us to a sensible next step we ought to take, either in deepening our understanding of what's going on and why, or to directly improve our performance. So adopting this helps us reinforce the improvement loop that we're generally trying to make part of the day job for team activities. So we then have a performance target or our plan. We then operate or do the process activities. We evaluate how we've done, the check, and then we act upon those observations and conclusions. And we repeat this every day of the week until it becomes second nature. So once we have our state-of-the-art visual management system up and running, what should we do with it? The main purpose of the visual management system should be that continuous influence on real-time activity. So the provision of feedback on current status and the oversight of performance, helping guide the decisions made throughout the working day. Do I pick the pace up or can I relax a bit? Which job should I take next? Should I take my break now or after this part of the job? Do I need to phone that supplier today, or should this holiday request be approved, etc., etc., etc. Our historical performance should be analysed and understood, and the root causes of unsatisfactory performance levels should be determined, quantified and prioritised for resolution. The local team should hold the first responsibility for doing something about performance. First and foremost, the performance data should be local news for local people. A steady, prioritised volume of actions able to be managed and delivered under local authority should be captured and worked on continuously. It's really important that we don't let this get out of hand. We're talking here maybe of 3 to 5 activities live at any given time, each one taking maybe a maximum of a week to complete, but these providing steady, iterative and sustainable improvements. Any critical finding that needs action but which is outside the capability or the authority of the team to achieve should be escalated through the management lines. And of course, the managers then need to perform well in their support of their proactive local teams. So, in summary, we should visually manage those facts and performance criteria that relate explicitly to the things that the local team do or need to achieve. The content is there to help local teams manage the achievement of their local goals and responsibilities. Always remember that fuel gauge example. Aspire to simple, clear, unambiguous visual displays that need no interpretation and that guide the local team members in when they need to act and what they need to do. Consider the 3 perspectives of past, present and future, and which aspects of each of our performance criteria we are managing that are relevant and significant to our area. Finally, there is no point at all collecting data and displaying performance intelligence if it is not then acted upon. In fact, it's counterproductive. We should expect a continuous stream of steady, sustainable performance improvements in our team or department. And what's more, we should be able to clearly demonstrate what we've achieved to senior managers or to any other interested parties. So I hope you found today's video interesting. If so, do consider subscribing to our channel. It's free, but it will make it much easier for you to catch our next videos and our future releases. So one of those that we're already working on will look at the subject of visual management display boards, the various options available out there, and some of the best practice considerations for content and layout of those. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
We do hope you found today's video interesting and informative. If you did, please click the like and subscribe buttons below. This really helps in getting our videos prioritized and found. Thank you and ciao, the Great Beard Academy.